Um, so if this is your first time coming to one of these sessions, we do them every Tuesday at noon. And the topic is marketing and outreach, and just kind of giving you the rules of the road. It's you've got these buttons down below on your screen. You got chat, raise hand, and Q&A. And chat is sort of like how we network with each other, and it's sort of like a business card exchange. And you can, I send out a transcript of chat, but you can actually copy it before you leave the meeting and reference people that you want to get in touch with. And so I encourage you to introduce yourself. The most important thing, and everybody seems to be doing it pretty well, is select all panelists and attendees. That will get your communication to everyone. I will pick on a few of you guys today if you're only posting to panelists. And again, I say it all the time. At some point, Zoom will update this so the default is all attendees instead of just the panelists. Let's see. The other, okay, so then today, this is a roundtable today, so I'm really hoping to bring all of you on if you want to say something or if you've got comments and things of that nature. But a couple of ways that we can communicate is you can raise your hand and then I'll bring your voice on. Don't worry if your hair and makeup is not perfect, unless you want to be shown on screen, it'll just be your voice. And then Q&A, you can click on the Q&A button and you can type in Q&A there. Try to minimize the questions in chat unless you want feedback from the rest of the audience for your question, then that's a good place to put it. So a couple more housekeeping things. Sometimes chat overwhelms people in these meetings because it gets going fast and furious. If you want to turn that off, all you got to do is just click on the chat button at the bottom of your screen and you'll minimize it, and then you can maximize it later on. Another thing that I know often comes up at these meetings is it's sort of like, wait, I don't like looking at your face, Steve, or why can't I see the PowerPoint larger? Your image is in the way. There's a couple of things that you can do. And in your upper right-hand corner, you have two different screen selections. You can choose speaker view, which when somebody's speaking, it's going to highlight them. And again, depends on what view you got, how big my face is compared to the PowerPoint. And then you can do gallery view. And again, today, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be the only panelist, but this is good for future reference as well. Okay, today, I got a few slides that I want to go through before we open up the roundtable discussion. And first, I want to take a look back at where we've come since the beginning of May, since we started doing these marketing mastermind talks. And the inspiration for starting this group is that for those of us who are in marketing, this is about the hardest left hook in senior living that anyone could take. To be in the field of senior living in COVID-19, but then to be a marketing and outreach person where your job is to move people into your community, to get members, to sign up people for home care. And all of a sudden, the brakes have been put on for most of us. There are some that have been able to sort of continue business as usual. But for most of us, the brakes have been put on. And when we start letting up the brakes, which we are letting them up, it's going to be a totally radically different world. And so one of the reasons that we brought this group together is for us to collaborate and share. And so this is a place where we can learn, but it's also like a support group. It's just knowing that there's other people in the same situation and sharing ideas and how do we get out of this? Or it's just, geez, I'm not the only one going through this. Okay, I feel a little bit better now. So I just wanted to kind of walk through the sessions that we've had since the beginning of May that this group has talked about. All of these are recorded and they're on a YouTube playlist, which I'll send out after this meeting. If you don't, you've got the link also in the invitation that you received. But our first, we're sort of come full circle here. And what I expect that we'll do is sort of have these roundtable discussions and then kind of plan out the next few weeks. It's sort of like find out what you guys want to dive deeper into. So we started this off with a roundtable discussion. And one of the things that came out of that was there was a lot of questions about digital marketing, sort of like, you know, what's the, because I can't sort of get out there and pound the pavement with my referral sources. It's what are the different digital marketing things. So our first week, we did an overview on digital marketing and we talked about, you know, from a broad level, the different types of digital marketing, programmatic, geofencing, and social and things of that nature. The following week, I really kind of wanted to provide a stable platform to what I feel any marketing plan needs, regardless pre-COVID or post-COVID, and that is understanding who your clients and your referral sources are. If you don't know who your existing customers are, it makes it very difficult to create a result-producing marketing plan. And so that was the second week. Then we talked about, the third week, we talked about email marketing and just email communication in general. The fourth week, we talked about responding to the phrase, I'm not ready yet. And again, these topics sort of came out of the previous week's discussion. So what I'm hoping is today, we come up with some great topics that we can dive into the next few weeks. Last week, we talked about how can we collaborate on marketing and outreach. I've said it time and time again, COVID-19 has brought us together as providers in ways that I've never seen in my 30 years. And I feel that some of the competitive barriers, while we've always been a collaborative group, some of the competitive barriers that have existed have even been dropped. And people are really eager to help each other and work together on marketing outreach strategies and implementation. And so that's what we kind of talked about last week. And then this week, we're right back to the start again, a roundtable discussion. You guys are driving the bus today. I'm just going to hopefully give you some fuel for discussion. Okay, and with that, before we kind of get to comments, but I hope that you all sort of have question, comments, things you want to share, and you raise your hand or you use Q&A, and we can kind of get this party started today. But let me just run through some slides that I think are very good in terms of a foundation of marketing. So in a marketing discussion. So my first one is, and those of you who know me know that I kind of use these slides on a regular basis, but they're good reminders. Okay, the first is low-hanging fruit and birds of a feather. Birds of a feather, this is why you need to understand who your customer is and who your referral source is. And the more detail, the better, because all marketing is going out and getting one more person that's just like the rest of the customers and referral sources that you have. And so the more you can know, the better it is. Low-hanging fruit is also related to knowing your customer. And I love to bring the example up because we're all, you know, we're penny pinching our marketing more than ever. But a great example is, it's sort of like if you know that one of your customers that or clients or residents came from or was a member of the Anytown Baptist Church, perhaps a great marketing vehicle that is very affordable and very targeted would be taking out an ad in a church newsletter, which can be very cost effective, very affordable. And you've already got one member of that church who is supporting your services. What are the chances that there's other members of that church that would be interested in your services? And that hopefully that sort of illustrates the birds of a feather and the low-hanging fruit. I'm big into low-hanging fruit. It's the lowest cost marketing that you can tap into, okay? So next two slides are, I'm using the bucket analogy. Those of us in the audience, we generally fit into one or more of these three buckets. We got the housing bucket, life plan communities, assisted living, memory care, active adult. We got the aging in place bucket, home care agencies, universal design, the villages are part of the aging in place bucket, transportation services, and then resources, aging life care managers, elder law attorneys, area agencies on aging, nonprofits. Just because you're a government agency or a nonprofit doesn't mean that you've got a market. We've seen actually the need to market and tell the world about your community service or your government service is very important. And oftentimes there's no budget attached to it. You gotta be creative, and you gotta sort of pound the pavement or utilize just organic social media to get the word out. The next bucket are the three buckets that we need to know. So like these are unique to each of us. You need to know who your clients are, where they come from geographically, what their demographics are, what is the problem that you're solving, and then the psychographics and the tentacles that they have in the community. Like I had mentioned first, you've got a client that's a member of Anytown Baptist Church. That's a tentacle in the community that you can take advantage of and support that organization while also using it as marketing. The next bucket is your referral sources. You got to know specifically who refers to you. And when I say specifically, obviously you need to know the name, but when you're out there, if you've received a referral from a nursing home social worker to your organization, there's an awfully good chance that you can receive a referral from every nursing home social worker in your targeted region. And but and you can create an effective communication strategy to that specific profession. And then the last bucket is who you refer to. As you sort of go along your daily activities, a lot of times we can't solve the problems for our clients, or we've solved one problem for our clients, but our clients have a dozen other problems. And so then we give referrals out to other people in the community. And how you leverage this and how you develop partnerships when you're giving out referrals is super important, okay? And then the last slide that I've got before we kind of kick things off is what we call the new marketing funnel. And the reason it's called the new marketing funnel is primarily because of digital marketing, is that digital marketing has, radically changed the way that we can market and communicate. And but I know there's a lot on this slide, but I'm gonna just sort of address it in the three big chunks that I have highlighted. That's lead generation. Okay, what lead generation is, that's somebody you have no relationship with that now has come into your circle of influence. Okay, so we, the people that we don't know out there that are targeted to our service, that we know we can help them, but they don't know us yet, that's called lead generation. We're putting logs on the fire. We want to develop a relationship with these people so that they trust us. And that's sort of the next phase is that when we want to move those lead generation clients into lead nurture, where they're sort of saying, yeah, I might give this organization a try, or I might take advantage of this free offer they are providing me, or I might tune into this webinar that is of interest. That's sort of helping those customers sort of determine whether or not it's a match. And then the last element is the goal is of those of us who are marketing is making a sale and action, ringing the cash register and creating a customer. Now I know I'm using a business analogy, ringing the cash register. There are people on this call that don't take money, government agencies, nonprofits. It's sort of like, I want to provide free services out there, support services. But you still have to market, and you're still developing a customer relationship, even though dollars are not being exchanged. And as you can see, you can get much more granular on the communication at each of those levels. And in our previous conversations, we've talked about it more than once, is how do you organize where people are in this pipeline? How do you know, you might want to send a different email to your lead generations than you do to your existing customers, and how do you organize that? And we talked about email marketing systems. We talked about CRMs, customer relationship managers, okay? So, but you can watch all those on the YouTube playlist that I'm going to share with you. So now let's have some fun. Let's collaborate here. So guys, there's two ways to do it. Raise your hand, and let me pull up my my Q&A, or type into the Q&A box, and I'll bring you on. But I'm going to prime the pump with a few questions that I came up with, and then I actually was emailed a question from an attendee that I think will be a great way to sort of kick things off today. But some of the questions that I sort of threw out that I'm sort of hearing in my conversations with you guys when we're not meeting is, when will things be more normal in the marketing and outreach world? Okay. And what marketing channels are working and what is not working for me individually? Are virtual meetings and tours engaging your prospects? What images are you using in your marketing materials to address social distancing? Have you looked at your brochures and your marketing and your website? And it's sort of like we created all these wonderful pictures and images that were so awesome pre-COVID, where our clients are hugging each other and they're, holding hands and all these things. And people know those images are still relevant, but we are going to need to make a shift here in the next year to where the majority of the images that we are displaying in our marketing materials are going to have to represent social distancing. And if we don't do it, the prospects and the people that we are communicating are not going to have confidence in their mom and dad or themselves being a part of our services. And so the big question, if it's not already coming out to you guys already, is, what are you doing to keep mom safe? What are you doing to keep me safe? And a lot of this is making sure that our marketing images are in alignment with our philosophy. This is, I think, a good question that I hear on a weekly basis, and I heard it pre-COVID, and I hear it now more than ever. is what is your management or your leadership's team expectations of marketing results? So many of us who are in large organizations know that there's the reality of what I can do right now in the marketplace, but your boss or your investors or the people above you may have different expectations. It's sort of like, why aren't you still doing 6 move-ins a month? You know, it's sort of like, well, because we can't do any move-ins. All right. What are specific challenges that you guys are facing? Feel free to share those. And then I'm really curious, like, what are some topics that we can dive into in future weeks with this group? I had mentioned I got an email, and I'm going to just browse the, let me see if she is on. Kimberly Lipinski is on. Kim, I'm going to allow you to talk. But Kimberly from Elder Nourish sent me an email before the call today, and her question is, Steve, my question for today's marketing mastermind is, how can I connect with hospital discharge departments to let them know about Elder Nourish customized service to help patients going home who will need a specialized diet or simply help with meals? Is there anyone on the call who can share any context for me with this? So, Kim, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great.
I'm here.
So my first question for you, and trust me, in my 30 years, every time I have a marketing conversation with anyone, it seems like it's their first target is hospital case managers. Their second target are physicians' offices. Now, just out of curiosity, and it's okay if the answer is no, is that in the past, have you received a referral from any hospital case managers?
Yes, I've received one just recently.
Awesome. Okay. So guys, I knew this was going to be a great thing that we can dive into, because it's a real world challenge that, that Kim is dealing with, but it's also a great illustration is that the good thing is that that you can help hospital case managers because you've received a referral. The hardest challenge is when, Kim wakes up in the middle of the night and she's like, I should be getting referrals from hospital case managers. And it's sort of like, if the answer to the question when I asked, have you ever received one, is no, I haven't, then we've got a lot of work to do, okay? Because we don't even know if your service is potentially relevant to for a referral to a hospital case manager. Now, and I'm not picking on anybody here, but we once did a panel presentation with hospital case managers, and this was live. This was back before we did the Zoom meetings, and there was an assisted living in the audience who said, when the Q&A came around, it's like, we don't really get any referrals from you guys. Why? And the irony is this hospital case manager actually put up a PowerPoint, and it showed where all their discharges went. And 90% of their discharges went to nursing homes and Medicaid or Medicare, Medicaid home care agencies. And she said point blank to this assisted living, it's like, look, our office really doesn't refer to that much assisted living. Most of our referrals, and she went back to the screen, go to nursing homes. So if you want a referral from our hospital, the best place for you to go is to the nursing home. Okay, so this is just, I love sharing that story because I know it'll be relevant to a lot of people on the call. But Kim, number one, we shared your question. So I'm hoping that there are some folks in the audience that might want to collaborate with you. And I can see where your service of, meal preparation and cooking for older adults would be very relevant to a lot of the home care providers out there. I could also see where you could even, if you haven't already, sort of do some coaching with home care providers that might not have the level of cooking skills that you do. Like I know that, people subscribe to your service, but I could also see you doing some training for home care workers to prepare nutritious meals if the client's budget is limited, or the home care agency, their philosophy is, hey, look, one of the services is that our workers are going to prepare meals. Let's see. So Kimberly, now, do you have a decent relationship with the case manager that gave you the referral?
No, I have a relationship with the client.
Okay. Okay. So here's another little tip, and everybody just take, I mean, these are things that have worked for other people over the years, and they may work for you guys. But so one of the things that that would be great is, so case managers are super busy, okay? And they're getting bombarded by every marketer on the planet, all right? So going in cold to the case manager that worked with your client can be somewhat challenging. So here's one idea. If you've got a good relationship with the client, is to, reach out to the client and just, throw your heart on the table and just say, look, I'm really trying to build this business. It's, getting referrals from case managers is very important. And your mom came from the hospital. And if it wouldn't be too much trouble for you, would you be willing to reach out to the case manager that you had at the hospital to give an update to that case manager on the status of your mom? Okay. And I've heard firsthand from, this again was a suggestion that came from a case manager directly that was on that panel that I just talked about. And what she said was, she goes, you guys are always calling me and you're telling me what a great job you do with the clients that come from our hospital. And she said, I have to take that with a grain of salt. But what is more meaningful to me is when a client or a family of a client reaches out to me and says, after our mom left the hospital, we hired this home care agency and this nutrition company and this transportation company, and this is how mom is doing now. And I just wanted to let you know, okay? They don't get enough calls like that. And when they get those calls, what she said is that if the story is coming from the client or the family, it's much more authentic. It's a story that I can tell. So in other words, if somebody is there in the hospital and they're getting ready to be discharged, and it's sort of like, and the doctor is talking about how they need, a salt-free diet or, low cholesterol or whatever it is. And it's sort of like, well, who do I use? The case manager might say, well, I know you can use these services, but, I just received a call from somebody who discharged, and they're using this service, and they seem to be happy. He or she, the case manager, is not, they're providing multiple referrals, which is what they want to do. I know I'm babbling there, Kim, but was any of that helpful? And I'm eager to look at the chat and see if any good suggestions have come up there.
Oh, yes, that's really helpful. Thanks.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Guys, not just, Kim, but use the chat to sort of collaborate with each other. I think that Kim could be a great resource for a great referral partner to go arm in arm into the future out there. So okay, so we've got a couple more people that have their hands raised, and I've got a verbal question that or a typed in question from Brian Miller. Steve, us marketing professionals are doing a great job of retooling our approach and presentations using new technology. I'm finding that the prospect market may not have adjusted or be ready to conduct business in this fashion. Amen, Brian. This is probably the most frustrating thing about this time. I'm working to come up with approaches for messaging to inform the prospect that I can meet, communicate, conduct business easily with new technology and not make it a burden on them to make time and effort to accept. I hear you, Brian, and reading in between the lines, when we say either pre or post COVID that the prospect market may have not adjusted to be ready to conduct business yet, this is an objection, okay? Like, we all face it. We all are we can talk to 100 people and we might get one customer. And what's important to understand is that when somebody says that they're not ready yet, when somebody says that, hey, I can't meet with you, I really can't talk about this, it's really key for us to try to get to the specifics if we can. And there's a million sales trainers that are out there, a million, tricks of the trade to get somebody it's sort of like, well, is it cost? Well, is it time? Well, is it infection, COVID-19? The more that we can get to why they're not ready, the more that we can address our messaging once we get in front of them. And oftentimes, if we can address those issues, we can get that meeting. And so we got to dig in there. Now it's really difficult. Allison Stanton and Mark Ash have their hands raised. Allison?
Hi, can you hear me, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just going to help Kim out, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, but you were given so much information, it was hard to catch it. I'm a geriatric care manager with a private practice in Howard County and surrounding areas, but I've been in geriatric social work for 24 years. So I've worked at hospitals. I'm still consulting in SNFs. So I wouldn't bother for someone with Kim, that's a very specialized service. And I'm going to be looking at your website and getting in touch because that will definitely help my clients. But being a worker in these areas, we're just so busy and there's so much going on, and length of stay, we're being pushed on things. It's really hard to give them a list of so many resources. We're just trying to make a safe discharge. So what I would do, you're so specialized, is to go after the dietitians and nutritionists at the hospitals. Just write a letter introducing yourself. And so if you have someone, whether it's weaning off of tube feeding or new diabetic diet, or someone lives alone and they can't make meals, blah, 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 et cetera, that's who I would go after. And that's your market.
Man, great idea, Allison. And I just have glanced at chat. And one important thing, when you're chatting, make sure you use that drop down that says all panelists and attendees. A few of your postings are only coming to panelists. But Allison, you bring up a really valid point, is that and the thing that we need to understand is that the case managers and the geriatric care or aging life care managers like you're getting bombarded with, you know, client referrals and all different types of things. But the person that has the nutrition issue is already working with the nutritionist, and the nutritionists at the hospital probably aren't getting bombarded with the marketing message like the case managers. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
And in a SNF I'm currently in, let's just say the census is 140. Guess how many dietitians are on staff? And this is a high Medicare turnover building. One FTE. And we're doing a lot of discharges. I mean, we're lucky if she makes the care plan meetings. How awesome would it be to share this resource?
Okay. Great idea, Allison. Thanks so much for sharing that. And for everybody, you know, really think outside the box when you're looking at when you're looking at reaching out to the hospital. Mark Ash has got his hand raised. Mark.
Good afternoon, everybody. And Allison, thank you for taking my point exactly. I was going to suggest for Kimberly to speak to the dietitian, but you know, on a larger point, we all can think about when we approach the hospital that we're not just going into case management. We can go into the specialty departments that don't see as much foot traffic and don't see the marketers, and you know, sometimes using the side door to get in might get your information to the better place than just going straight to case management. And then you have more allies behind you to push your case and your cause through case management. So Allison, you make a great point. That's the point I was going to make. But in a larger sense, there's so many different doors that go into the hospital, so to speak. And, you know, we can approach departments and so on. And I've had I've had good success in the past doing that. So.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm reminded of this is one of my friends who ran the marketing for a small assisted living chain in New England, and the side door that he discovered was the emergency room. So the case managers only get the cases when somebody is admitted and they're in the hospital and then they need to be discharged. But what he discovered was that a lot of the people that were moving into his assisted living, that they had multiple falls in where they would go to the emergency room and they wouldn't be admitted, they would be discharged. And so what he did was he made the rounds to the 3 hospitals in his region and got to know the staff of the emergency department. And what he discovered was that he didn't have all the competition of the other marketers that were in line to sort of do in-services to the case managers or bring the gift basket or do all the other, traditional marketing stuff. All you got to do is go to a hospital case management department during the holiday season to just see how much competition is out there with the massive gift baskets. You could spend $1,000 on a gift basket and it probably doesn't even show up on the table because everybody's going so crazy during those times of year. Okay, we got a typed in comment on the in the Q&A. Food and nourishment is so important. Kim, could you explain briefly how your services works? Have not looked at your website, but we know nutrition and losing weight, being thin, loss of appetite, having a desire to eat, and a real problem elderly aging populations. Here, Kim, I'm going to bring you back on. And I didn't mean for this to be the Kim show, but let me tell you, I am glad because it I love the idea of the format where we take some real life problems that you guys are faced with, and then we dive into them and come up with solutions. And I can see by the chat that's going on that Kim's problem, everybody's able to sort of relate to it, and people are coming up with different ideas and solutions. And so if we got about 20 minutes left, so I encourage you guys to raise your hands and maybe, throw out some different ideas or questions, and we can bring you on too. But Kim, I put you back on again. Sounds like
Sure.
you've really piqued everybody's interest. Just tell us the concept of your business. And my little disclaimer here is my aunt has actually used Kim's services and is very satisfied with them. But that was just sort of an accident.
Hi, yeah. So the first thing we do is a very detailed intake with a client to determine what their food preferences are and any dietary restrictions they may have, and the health goals that they're trying to reach through nutrition. After that, we come up with a customized menu. I work with dietitians, and we do a menu that's just for them. So the food that they are offered is only food that they know they're gonna like. If they don't like broccoli and cauliflower and foods like that, it'll never show up on their menu. The other thing that we can do is we can have them share recipes with us that are their family recipes or cultural recipes, so that they can get food that's familiar to them. And with our clients that are suffering from various levels of dementia, familiar food is really, really important. So that's how we get started. Previously, we were a private chef service that did the cooking in the home, and our website still reflects that. However, we have switched because of COVID to a delivery model. So all the customization is still there. However, we do a no contact delivery of the meals, and we can do delivery on a weekly basis or every other week or on a monthly basis, whatever the client needs. They get meals that are the main meal of the day. So they're getting a protein, a starch, and a vegetable, or perhaps a protein and 2 vegetables, whatever they need according to their diet. And those meals can be put up in the refrigerator and freezer and microwaved when they're ready. Because of COVID, and as a way to help our clients not have to go to the grocery store at all, we are providing things like salads and fruits, so fresh produce and fresh fruits in addition to the meals, just as a way to supplement their diet more fully, to give them the best nutrition and avoid having to go to the grocery store. I think that kind of sums it up. I will say that our website will be changing in about a week to reflect the fact that we now do delivery. So if you go to the website, you'll see how it works step by step. However, it does say that we come into the home and cook, which we are not doing at this time. So,
yeah, and talk about, you're a relatively new business here in the DC area, and but having to make that adaptation, that was not your original business model, and COVID-19 has made an adaptation there. So
right. Oh, the only other thing I'll add is that we do all kinds of specialized diets that are very complicated, including swallowing difficulty at just about every level of a swallowing disorder. We can handle that and provide really great nutrition that's about, and palatable food, which is also really important.
Now, have you received referrals in the past from speech therapists and people? Susan Rannick actually emailed me and said she wasn't going to be on the call today, but everybody knows Susan and her talks about swallowing. But have you received referrals from that segment?
Yes, I have. And
okay.
Honestly, most of my referrals come from senior care managers who are doing home care for their clients.
Aging
And
life care, aging
yes,
life care managers. Okay.
yeah, and they, their helpers that go into the home can provide certain amount of meal preparation. But when people are on something like kidney dialysis, they have a very complicated diet, which is difficult to manage. And that's when they'll call us to come in to do meals. So
Great.
situations like that.
Great. Well, thanks for kicking off such a great discussion, Kimberly.
Oh, you're welcome.
And
Thank you
thanks
for
for
all the
jumping
help.
back on. Okay. And then we got another question that came in, or a comment here. It says, I'm curious what others say. I think it's hard to meet with hospital care providers, even prior to COVID. This area is often secured. Absolutely. I mean, it was hard. It's hard to get in to hospitals pre-COVID. Now, with COVID, it's even more difficult. And again, I'm going to go back to that panel. Folks, raise your hand or type in questions if you want to jump on. We got about 15 minutes, but I'm going to share with you again another suggestion from a case manager at that panel presentation that we ran. And what she said was, the best way to communicate with me as a care manager is when one of your existing clients enters the hospital. And so she spelled out a scenario, and she picked on an assisted living. It was the assisted living that said that they didn't get enough referrals. She picked on the gentleman who worked at that assisted living, and he said, I bet you didn't realize that one of your residents is in our hospital right now. And what she said and what she recommended was, she said, I'm having communication with your director of nursing on the discharge back to your community, but I don't need to talk to the director of nursing. And so her suggestion to this marketing and outreach person was, meet with the team in your organization that knows when your clients are going to the hospital and offer to do the outreach to the hospital on that visit. So for example, what she suggested is that when a resident is going from your assisted living to the hospital, instead of the director of nursing following up, it could be the marketing person that picks up the phone and says, Mrs. Smith just entered the hospital. She had a fall. She's there. I just want to make sure, I want to connect with the case manager who's assigned to her so that that she's living in a senior living community right now and we can take care of her. She said, this case manager said, when she gets a call like that, it makes her so happy because she's got a pile of cases on her desk and you basically just solved one of those problems. She doesn't need to plan that discharge as much. And this, she did reference that home care agencies, this is specifically important because when home care agencies when a client goes into the hospital, they don't necessarily know that they've got a home care agency they're working for. So that client is going to be discharged back to the home. They're already thinking about, okay, well, we got to get a home care agency. And so getting that call to know that a specific home care agency is on the case is very important. Okay, guys, we are getting down to the wire here. If you want to jump on and say something, raise your hand. I love centering these discussions around like Kimberly's case, like we did in her question. And as you can see, it's unanimous that that a bunch of you guys feel the same way. So one of the things that I would suggest is, as you guys are out there and you're doing your job, when you hit a speed bump, and when it comes to marketing, or if you've got an issue, reach out to me. Just send me an email, same way that Kim did, and says, hey, I got this question that I'd like to sort of bring to the forum. And you can sort of see how it's a great way for us to come together as a community and come up with different solutions. Let's see. I'm going to sort of start wrapping things up here, but I want to just kind of go through, you know, the different ways that Sourcebook can help you. Number one, I'm going to keep on doing these Tuesday at noon things. And if I don't have a specific topic for us to drill down on, I'm just going to do a marketing roundtable. So you guys know, every Tuesday at noon, if you want to talk marketing, if you want to sort of, you know, join the support group, you know where to go, okay? And then we've also got our free online community, and we've got a marketing masterminds group within that. And so if you're not already a member of that, the Pro Aging Online Network is a great place to connect with other providers and share resources. I've been doing an awful lot of this in that I've sort of intentionally paused the next issue of Sourcebook until we get a little bit deeper into phase 2 and 3 in the Mid-Atlantic. But I have had some amazing conversations with you guys, nonprofits, government agencies, for-profit, housing options on just, you know, the challenges that you're facing. And you can book directly on my calendar. I don't charge you anything for the initial conversation. And most of the time, most of the people I meet with don't charge anything at all. The only time that I charge people is usually it's when we finish the conversation and they're like, Steve, I really want you to do this for me. Put together a proposal, or, you know, how much would it cost? And it's just project by project basis. And I have a blast doing this, whether it's short-term or long-term. So take advantage of that. I love these conversations. And then lastly, Sourcebook. My thought is that in the DC, Baltimore area, we will probably do the next issues of Sourcebook sometime in the fall, okay? And I'm gonna give everybody a long runway of 45 to 60 days when we decide that we're gonna do that. I'm super excited at the next version of Sourcebook because it's gonna illustrate how much our provider community has come together, and it's going to address a lot of the concerns that older adults have going through this COVID-19 process. Beverly Fishman has raised her hand. Whoops. Okay. All right, Beverly, I just, looks like you've got an older version of Zoom. So we get to see your lovely face there, Beverly. What would you like to share? Oh, wait, you got to unmute. You got to unmute. Lower left hand.
My name is Beverly Fishman.
Hey.
My organization is called Support for Families Nursing Home Residents. What we do is we go into nursing facilities. Let's say a family member is having an issue. They contact us. We go into the nursing facility. We speak with the person that's in charge, the family member that's in charge, or if the person is in charge of themselves. They sign our release form, and our name goes on their file. So if something is wrong, we can contact the nursing home on their behalf. Very often we have to go to the state of Maryland and bring it. Very often I find that people are having such problems because families are not being heard. They're not being taken seriously. It's very near and dear to me. I have done a lot of research and done a lot of things and have been involved in quite a few nursing facilities. And I would love to connect with you privately and continue to do this, the Tuesday marketing. But more than anything else, I want to see more people come together to support their families by interacting with people with organizations such as mine. There is such a need, and it hurts because I believe that the elderly and the disabled have to live with some kind of dignity, and they're not getting it in nursing facilities.
Well, yeah, and again, I'm very sensitive about painting a broad brush. I mean, we all know that there are, you know, leadership teams and organizations and nursing facilities that are doing a great job. But what you speak to, again, pre-COVID, there wasn't enough people advocating for the older adults, and even that loving daughter that is just doing the best that she can, she doesn't know how to navigate our complicated network. And now we're trying to figure out how to navigate our complicated network because nobody's got this COVID-19 roadmap. So yeah, Beverly, number one, thanks for sharing. And I'm sure that there'll be people in chat that'll want to reach out and partner with you. And then feel free to reach out to me, and I'd love to brainstorm and
Wonderful.
Okay. So guys, we are, okay, great. I'm gonna stop your video. I'm gonna mute you. Okay. And I am going to, I'm going to call this meeting over here, guys. This was a great one, and blown away again by the level of community coming together. So we'll see you next Tuesday. For those of you who are on, we got 2 awesome webinars that you're going to want to jump on Friday. Okay, I want to give a commercial for Friday at noon. Okay, if you have not heard about the small house greenhouse movement in nursing homes, you're going to want to tune in at Friday at noon, because you're going to get a live virtual tour at the small house that is at Goodwin House. Okay, I've been trying to do a meeting there for 2 years, and it's ironic that it took the digital Zoom to get us there. But if you're not familiar with the small house movement, there's been a lot of press about it lately, because the incident of COVID infection in the small house is anecdotally, not scientifically yet, but is anecdotally less than in a large nursing home. But when you see the sort of the design and the culture change elements in a small house, it is mind-blowing. And there's so many lessons that we can each learn from the small house movement to bring that into our own businesses. So really tune in on Friday at noon. And then at Friday at 2, we're the same day, so you get about an hour, half hour break between. We're gonna meet Dr. Drew Falconer, and he is with ANOVA, their movement disorders clinic. And it's always awesome when we can talk to a doctor firsthand, pick their brain, find out what they're thinking about COVID-19. So that's my that's our meeting today. Thanks everybody, and I'll follow up with an email.